This video is made for adult collectors because a couple things may or may not go wrong. These things come, you're not part of the shoot. These things come with so many accessories. I had to carry all of this in my pocket on the way up here to like get to this room, because this room is not where I edit. And like you get a whole torso. Now I gotta sort through all this before I get started. That's gonna be fun. Also, there he is. Surprisingly, after a whole year of the movie being out, we have a ton of these larger scale TF1 figures releasing. And like, there are so many to choose from now that it is kind of hard. Yolopark sent over their takes of both Optimus and Megatron. I had the Optimus Prime already, and I was content with that. But getting this one, ooh, it's a tough call. For starters, these look fantastic, feel fantastic, but their builds had some issues. These were sent over by Yolopark. They have a wide range of Transformers kits on their site, and if you use code TOYGUY, you can save some money off your orders, though the code does exclude the Pro kits, but you can check them out, link in the description below. Thank you for sending these my way. Now back to the actual figures. Both of these, as I said, look fantastic, but I'm gonna go into the builds first. These are like Bionicle styled kits over traditional model kits. The instructions were easy to follow and the parts went together okay. There were some bits though that took a lot of force to put in place, like Prime's shoulders, Megatron's fists initially. Prime's feet were also kind of hard because the middle bit is painted die-cast, but they painted over the pegs, so plugging in the side panels, I had to sand some bits down because they weren't toleranced for that paint. And getting Prime's chest to stay folded down at first was a bit of a challenge, but now I've figured out how it works and everything works fine. However, my Megatron was missing a fusion cannon peg. It just wasn't there. These are also as final as they get. They are not pre-production copies from what I understand, so it is a bit of a bummer, but I contacted Yolopark support and they sent me a new cannon in like less than a week, so there's that. Now they are both complete and man, they look so good together. Let's start with Prime because he's sitting closer to me on my desk while I'm writing this. This thing is so metallic. I love the sheen they have all over this thing. The red is nice and glossy. The blue is very metallic. The silver is dull enough to look worked through, but not that weird slightly off yellow color that the concept art and early toys had. He also weighs a lot in hand. There's a lot of die cast in the lower leg, so he's very nice and solid. He's got a very sturdy base. Next to the Blockies one, ooh, it's a tough call, but I think on looks, I'd pick the Yolopark one, though on build, I would pick the Blockies one. He comes with several faces and light up eyes. He also has the axe and several alternate hands, and pressing this button on his back opens the chest. Albeit it's not the most successful opening, but it opens. But the coolest accessory he comes with is an entire torso, because you can easily convert him into Orion Pax, which I think is very neat. I plan on displaying him in Optimus mode, but like the option is there. Even though if you want a Pax, there is a cheaper non-die-cast $30 version they make. Oh, and he has a stand and a stand adapter that plugs into his PP. That's a horrible place for a stand adapter. Megatron is more or less the same in terms of what he can do. I love how they damaged up the silver and they added some dry brushing and that nice black wash going on over it. Though I think they went a bit too intense on the thighs with the black wash, but the upper body looks fantastic. His neck is also really thin and exposed. It feels like it sticks out a bit too much, but after rewatching the film, that's kind of what his neck looks like. He also has a lot of weight to him, but because the chest doesn't have a gimmick, it is entirely made of die-cast and it adds more weight to him than Prime. Behind that chest though is some inner cog detail, which is really cool. Yeah, it just came off. This is a die-cast piece. Oh, it's a die-cast piece. So it's got quite a grip on here, and I wiggled it like I was trying to wiggle it out, and then it went bonk this way, and I sheared that off. It still stays on, and I'm never taking it off ever again, but you know, there you go. He comes with both cannons he had in the film, the big one and the little one. He also has the stand like Prime and all the D16 bits, but unlike Optimus, they don't come with any new torso part. I'm assuming that's because the figure doesn't have a matrix gimmick, so they don't need to swap the torso, which is fine, though it means swapping between modes is a bit harder and more fragile. I still love that the option is there. Again, there is also a non-painted $30-ish die-cast free version of D16 if you just want that they do sell as well. Okay, one thing before I go into the articulation I want to talk about is that die-cast, the thing that broke here because the die-cast is so tight. So it's really hard to tolerance metal against plastic from what I understand from talking to like my engineering friends and all that. And so here it's, you know, everything is stiff, pegged in. Now with Optimus, it's really easy to swap the bits out because everything's on here. I don't have to take any of the metal parts off. But on Megatron, you have to. And taking those metal parts off does stress the plastic a little bit just because it's not the right fit. and it broke this piece, and it was stressing the connector on the shoulder here. There's two. There's a peg here and a slot here. I'm not taking this off because, yeah, it came off and is stuck in here. This is not die cast, this is plastic, but I noticed when taking this off that it was already starting to stress that a little bit, and it completely, like, I gave this like a little bit of a wiggle. I stuck my fingernail in this little crevice here to sort of like get enough space, and then just slowly shimmied it off, but it immediately went tuk and came right off. So that peg is broken. Fortunately, again, this is staying on. It has another peg and it connects to this, so like it's not gonna fall off, but that is just a little bit frustrating. So the head is on a very interesting joint. You have a ball joint, so you get some nice wiggle waggle there. You get some rotation. Then you can look up that far and you can look down that far because there's also a hinge at that ball joint. So you get quite a lot of motion there at the head. The shoulders, they can do a full 360 degrees. The shoulder pads can move. The shoulders can go out that far. You do have a bicep rotation and a double jointed elbow that bends all the way. The wrists, the arm can fall out. That's the first time that's happened. The wrists are on ball joints and all of the wrists can do this. However, he comes with these, he comes with these hands, which have a bend here, a bend at the knuckle here, and then the same bend at the knuckle here and here, then a ball joint and two joints at the thumb as well. And Optimus comes with hands like this too. So you have articulated hands or just the posed ones. He does have some side to side at the torso, an ab crunch that goes that far forward and doesn't really go back that far. Then you have a waist joint, though it is a bit stiff on my copy. The hip skirts, they can sort of move. They're a slightly softer material, so they can flex out of the way to accommodate the hips going forward. That far, they can go back, not that much. They can go out all the way. You do have a thigh rotation. You have a double jointed knee that bends that far, and it does push this little piece of armor in a little bit. Let's see if we can see it popping out. No, you could, it goes in about that far, which is not a lot. And then the knee pads can move. The feet, they can go down. They can't really go up that far, but you do get a toe bend. And then you have ankle tilt and foot rotation. So he's very posable. I just wish the ankles had more range, and I wish the hips were dropped down. And then obviously the figure didn't break. But like, I really wish those two things were changed on this guy. Optimus, though, for having very similar joints, has a lot more range than Megatron did. So to start with, the head is on a very stiff ball joint, but you get some very nice tilt. You can look up that far, you can look down that far, because the ball socket itself is also on a hinge, as opposed to the hinge being in the middle of the neck, which means that the neck can look a little bit smaller, which I like. The shoulders, they can do a full 360. The shoulder pads move. The arms can go out all the way. This one is very loose on my copy, which is a little unfortunate. You do have bicep rotation, double jointed elbow that only bends about that far. The wrists are on ball joints, and again, these are the articulated hands, so they have the same amount of range as Megatron's. The torso can crunch forward that far, it can't really crunch back at all, and you get some nice side to side, as well as a waist joint. However, it does push the hip skirts out of the way. The hip skirts themselves, though, I thought the solution of the Blockies one was neat, where it just rotates with the leg, which I still think is a very good solution. But Yolopark came up with their own solution where it's ball jointed at the back here, and then there's a hinge and a ball joint in the middle. So this can collapse and go up that far. So you can get like a full 90-degree kick out of that, which I think is great. They can go back that far. You do have a thigh rotation and they go out that far. Double jointed knee that does push this piece in. And then when you bend the leg out, it pushes that piece back out again. I like that. It's always fun watching mechanics in your toys. And then you have your ankle tilt. The toes can go forward, but not that far. And then you have foot rotation. So with Prime, the only things I wish for were drop down hips, but more toe articulation. Everything else I think is fine. But yeah, they're really fun to pose still, even though they have a couple of weird limitations to them.
I really like both of these, and I think of all the Primes I've seen to come out like this one is my favorite. I haven't handled the 3-0 one, but what turned me off that is it doesn't have any light up eyes as far as I'm aware. The only real things I don't like were the builds being a bit tough to do and Megatron's missing cannon peg and a couple of his like inner pegs breaking off, which would be okay if this wasn't the second time this has happened to me. Yolopark Revenge of the Fallen Megatron coming with 2 left legs was a bit of a bummer. I just hope, because Yolopark does know about these things, that it gets rectified, and knowing them, it probably will. They're actually pretty good at that. They rectified that Revenge of the Fallen Megatron issue very quickly. They're also super apologetic about mine missing a peg, which was honestly nice to see. I would still recommend these two if you really want good posable versions of both Optimus and Megatron. They're just a lot of fun and they feel great, so long as you don't want to swap Megatron's bits. But that's my look at Yolopark AMK Pro Optimus and Megatron. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.